Jeremy Kyle at Drive on Talk Radio.
Talk Radio.
Hello, that surprised me. 4 minutes past 5, Thursday afternoon. Welcome to Drive. My name's Jeremy Kyle. Don't forget, you can be part of this. 0344 499 1000 is our telephone number. You can text 87222, but start with the word talk. What I love about the great British public is this view, that view. They're never the same. That's what a democracy is. This is why this amazing radio station is the home of common sense, because we want to hear your opinions. I'll give you two diametrically opposed views. Mr. Whitehurst says, Jez, you're being really unfair, okay? It's hard working in retail. It's hard being a customer assistant. We've been working throughout the pandemic and you're not respecting us. We know we could get better, but don't treat everybody the same. Whereas Maxwell says, Jez, you're right. The personal aspect has gone out of any transaction. Even the pubs now, you book everything online. Everything's gone. Nobody seems to care. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. That's what it is about. Today's political panel right now. Love this. Two commentators, two campaigners, talking about what's in the news. We start with Mike Buckley, commentator and campaigner. Mike, good afternoon. Joseph Silke as well, communications manager at Bright Blue. I'm going to start with Mike Buckley, who's going to disagree with me absolutely, but isn't it great, Mike, to see us bloodying the nose of that awful little man Macron and telling the French to do one?
Well, that depends on your point of view. And I don't think that's really the point of our defence or security policy. I think the point is to keep this country safe and to make sure that Britain is a force for good in the world. And we spoke about this the other day, and I enjoyed the conversation we had the other day. I'm still entirely unconvinced that this pact is going to make the world a safer place for the UK or for any other nation. And
but Mike, what we're saying is, Mike, I get that you're very, very, I get that. What I'm saying to you is, by anybody's standards, Macron was very smug during Brexit. He's always out to bash the Brits. He's always out to put himself there. What I'm saying to you is, isn't it from a British point of view glorious to give him a bit of a bloody nose?
No, it isn't at all. I mean, we need a good relationship with Macron and with all other European leaders.
On his terms.
Of our economy, on an objective level. It doesn't have to be on his terms, on our terms, on anybody else's terms. But our economy is suffering because of Brexit, which we see on a daily basis. Our security and defence is also suffering because of Brexit. It's absolutely made us less safe. We should be doing everything we can to develop security and defence relationships with Europe. All the more so in light of Afghanistan and the fact that America, sadly, has proven itself to be an unreliable ally that takes little interest in the views of anybody other than its own high-level ranking officials. So on that basis, we should be developing our relationship with France, with Germany, with the rest of Europe to ensure that this country is safe.
Don't have to agree with you about everything, Mike. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of a democracy. Joseph Silke. Joseph Silke, Communications Director at Bright Blue. Maybe it is too flippant of me to say that, but Macron, to me, like Merkel, always seems to be there to bash us Brits and to make the point that we're this, we're that, we're the other. And as Trevor Kavanagh said in The Sun today, it's quite sublime, the revenge on Macron, isn't it? It's quite nice, I think. It makes me feel quite good about myself. What about you?
It is quite fun. To be fair to Angela Merkel, I think she's generally been a lot more conciliatory than Macron has been. He's always been the more belligerent one. I think, listen, the French are always going to sneer at a perfidious Albion, and frankly, I really wouldn't have it any other way. They're upset because they feel outmaneuvered in the Indo-Pacific. The EU were just announcing their grand Indo-Pacific strategy on the same day that we undercut them with this announcement with the United States, and they consider the United States to be their oldest ally from the Revolutionary War, and they signed this deal with the Aussies. So you can understand why they're upset, and it is fun. But I do agree with Mike that, in all seriousness, we do need to have a close relationship with the French, and repairing this relationship should be a priority.
Well, agree to disagree. Your sound is not great, but we'll crack on anyway. We talked earlier on about the climate debate. To be fair to both of you, this has been going on a long time. We've talked about how Extinction Rebellion and Insulate have done what they've done. Interesting that they wrote a letter to Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, today saying, we don't really want to do this. We want to talk about what's important. Do you believe that these groups are going to get their message across? All of us have to take responsibility for the climate. They haven't gone about it in the right way. We need to have the debate, but how do we do it successfully, Mike?
We don't do it by blocking the M25 or stopping people getting to work. I mean, earlier in the year, Extinction Rebellion, I think, were jumping on top of tube trains in East London and preventing people getting to work. And that's a really, really dumb thing to do. We need the public on side. You don't do that by disrupting their lives, by potentially, preventing people getting to medical appointments or doctors and nurses getting to work or whatever else. I think it's really, really dumb, and there are better ways to do it. And thank goodness there are lots of climate campaigners who are doing a much better job. I mean, you look at the debate now, not just in the UK, but in lots of other nations. It's moved on hugely from even a couple of years ago, but I'm sure even from like 5 or 10 years ago. I mean, it's very, very rare now to hear somebody saying, oh, yes, it's all a pile of rubbish, that, we don't believe it. Pretty much everybody believes it. I mean, I was reading today, Boris Johnson was still writing articles in 2015 saying that climate change is a load of rubbish. And he is now, running across the planet trying to get people to agree to climate commitments. Now, I question his own commitment because I was just reading the paper again earlier today, and there were lots of people, including businesses in the UK, saying the UK government needs to do more and that too much of what the government is doing is simply rhetoric rather than actually action. However, the government is doing something. And you never hear a Conservative minister now saying, this is rubbish, we're not going to do anything.
I'd say that point.
Even if they're not doing enough.
I'd say the point. I think you're right. I think that's the point I was trying to make last week, Mike, that it's got to be about education, hasn't it? You can't expect to get on with this argument if you are simply disrupting people's lives. Joseph, I guess you'd agree. The way they've gone about it is wrong, but the climate argument is one we cannot afford not to have, isn't it?
Absolutely. I agree that they seem like they're protesting like we're back in the 90s, like people don't recognise that climate change is a massive issue. We've got some really important ambition from this government, also from other governments, but the ambition is really the easy part. Making these pledges, saying we're going to get to net zero by 2050, that's the easy part. The difficult part is actually delivering on that. And to deliver on it, you need to get the public on side, you need to have the right incentives, the right support in place. And those are the conversations that we need to be having, those difficult discussions. And to be honest, all this disruption on motorways and on train lines, it's a complete distraction. It just turns people off the climate issue.
I completely agree. Finally, guys, we started the show. I mean, there's a lot of talk about, could there be a gas crisis by Christmas? Is Christmas going to be cancelled? Is just a perfect storm? Brexit, COVID, now a gas crisis. We had a Russell Quirk on, a retail expert, who said, actually, do you know what? At the end of the day, this is being peddled. It'll be absolutely fine. And it led to a big debate, which is people are getting involved on text. I want to take some calls on it as well. The high street, right? Do you believe that the high street... I don't know, the retailers have killed it themselves? Do you think they've been killed by being outsmarted by online practice? Do you think that the high street can ever, Mike Buckley, get back to where it was before?
No, I don't think it can, sadly.
No,
and I think we're going to have to change how we use our high streets. I mean, there's lots of discussion now of using properties that were, say, department stores as libraries. There's a proposal to use the old Debenhams in Sheffield, which is very central, as a hospital because it's so central, so people can get there. We're going to have to think creatively. This would have happened anyway, but I think the pandemic has just shoved things, 5, 10, 15 years, pick a number. It's pushed that into fast forward because we've all been at home. We've all realised how much we can get online. We don't have to leave the house. We don't feel safe leaving the house. Why put yourself at risk and go into a shop? You can just press some buttons on your laptop or your phone and get it delivered. So we all want vibrant high streets, but actually most of us at the moment, we want a vibrant high street. We're not actually willing to go and spend the money in a physical shop to make that happen.
Joseph, what do you say?
Well, if the Marble Arch Mound doesn't bring people back to Oxford Street, I don't know what will. I agree that it's certainly accelerated the trends that we'd already been seeing through the pandemic. I actually think, to be honest, will the death of the high street necessarily be a bad thing? There could be opportunities for housing, for regenerating our inner cities in a way which is quite creative and useful for people in other ways. So I think that certainly online shopping is something clearly people prefer. People don't want to go to the shop, and the high street are going to have to be competitive or they will die. And if they do die, maybe that would be a good thing in other ways.
Thank you, guys. Thank you to Mike Buckley, a commentator and campaigner, Joseph Silke as well, the political panel every day on Drive after 5.